the Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Welcome back to Cherry Picking, Cherries fans, and thank you for joining us. Now, before we get going, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button below. It helps this channel to grow. Now, before we do get stuck into it, two mentions for our two sponsors. Firstly, Dental on the Banks, dentalonthebanks.co.uk for any of your dental needs, and also Touchpoint Telecoms, touchpointtelecoms.co.uk. Get in contact with Mark and the team for all your business telecoms requirements. So, as you can see, there's four of us today on Cherry Picking. And firstly, we better say hello to him. He is a regular. We have got Mr. Matthew Harrison. How you doing, Matt?
You're not bad, Craig. Regular, eh? That's
well,
I'd say pretty regular. I don't think I've missed one this season, have I?
No, you haven't, to be honest, mate. You're part of the furniture now, aren't you, really? Let's be honest.
Well, yeah, part of the wallpaper, I suppose. Yeah,
exactly, mate, exactly. And just below me, you'll recognise him from last time round and another couple of shows ago. We have got Malcolm Chiverton. How you doing?
Hi, yeah, all good here. Thanks very much.
Excellent.
Also becoming a regular.
Yes,
You certainly are, and we love having you on this show, Malcolm.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem, our pleasure. And we do have a newbie there in the corner. It is a grand welcome to Mr. Ollie Hudson. How you doing, Ollie?
I am very well, thank you, guys. Real big pleasure to be here. So looking forward to the evening. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, our pleasure as always, Ollie. So let's get stuck into it, and we will start with our regular feature, Guess the Cherry. So I'll run through it. So our cherry today was born in Sandown on the Isle of Wight in 1979. He was handed his AFC Bournemouth debut by Mel Machin. He played 407 times in a Cherry shirt, scoring 108 goals. He also played for Doncaster, Yeovil and Havant Waterlooville. He scored 4 goals for Bournemouth against Bury at Gig Lane, and he has a famous EFL record. Who is it? Well, put your answers in the comments below, and we will reveal it at the end of the show. There you are. That rhymes, doesn't it? Rhymes. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Well, there we are. So there's Guess the Cherry. But I tell you what, we want to hand the floor over to our new star and introducing Ollie.
Thank you very much. Yeah, as I mentioned, really big pleasure to be here. I've been watching the show for a little while. And yeah, some interesting topics I'm sure that are going to come up tonight that I can give an opinion on.
Definitely. And what we'd like to start off with is a bit of a talk about, how you become a Bournemouth fan and also your favourite players growing up playing for the club.
Sure, yeah. So I became a Bournemouth fan when I moved to Bournemouth. I didn't really have too much chance of following football where I was growing up. It was in a small town in Lincolnshire. But as you know, as soon as you get to Bournemouth, I was in secondary school and then went and did a scholarship at Bournemouth with with a college degree. And ever since that day, you know, being able to go to the stadium every day to attend college, just awesome. Just stuck with me ever since. I've got aunties who are lifelong Bournemouth fans and season ticket holders, friends who are also lifelong season ticket holders. So, yeah, it holds a special place in my heart, AFC Bournemouth, for sure.
Excellent. And there's some players here that you really look up to. Do talk through, a couple of those players.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Matt Ritchie for me was a big one. Just some awesome appearances as a player as well. Just stand out, you know. Going along with that, I mean, we have to notice that the current squad, you know, there's some current squad that stands out, but didn't quite have an impact in my interest in Bournemouth back in the day. Mark Pugh, another big name, a standout character at Bournemouth for a number of years. How can you look past both of them? Me, myself, I was a centre-back. So there's obviously some other players that I followed of interest. But yeah, those two for me were real big for me.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I've got a fellow defender there as well in Frano on that list. And, you know, of course, he's doing a pretty good job of scouting for players as well at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, who else better to have, right? He knows the team inside and out. He's been part of the squad for, you know, going on 20 years now, is it?
Yeah.
Who better to be in that position and to take us forward with the players that we're now finding?
Yeah, most definitely. Well, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here, Ollie, and welcome to the Up the Cherries in all departments team. And
Thanks
no doubt, not a problem. We will be doing lots and lots and lots of stuff moving forwards. But I tell you what, let's move on to, of course, Tuesday's game against Manchester City. And of course, drama at the Etihad. Red cards fly after Marmoush's magic strike. So I'm going to run through this. So Kevin De Bruyne signed off from his last home game for Manchester City on a high as they beat Bournemouth to close in on a place in the Champions League next season. Both sides finished with 10 men. City was stunned by Crystal Palace in Saturday's FA Cup final and desperately needed victory against the Cherries to help ensure they finished in the Premier League's top 5 in an otherwise miserable season. Pep Guardiola's men are now third in a strong position heading into Sunday's last game of the season at Fulham, where a point should be enough to ensure a return to Europe's top table. While all eyes were on De Bruyne on his final appearance at the Etihad Stadium, a huge roar greeted the return from injury of Rodri, who last featured back in September. Striker Omar Mamouche opened the scoring with a sensational 30-yard strike, which swerved and crashed into the net via the post. De Bruyne, though, was sniffing a goal and should have converted when Marmouche laid the ball to him in a couple of yards out with an open net to aim at. But to the astonishment of all in attendance, he somehow scooped his effort onto the crossbar. Bernardo Silva poked home a second, but City showed their vulnerabilities at the back between the goals as Evan Nilsson stretched a foot out at a cross and rattled the post. Substitute Nico Gonzalez lashed in the third, and although Dan Jefferson grabbed a late consolation, the loss ended Bournemouth's hopes of qualifying for Europe next season. Both sides had players sent off as last man Mateo Kovacic was dismissed for a tug on Evan Nilsson, while Lewis Cook was also given a red card for a lunge on Gonzalez. Bournemouth's faint hopes of competing in Europe next season were extinguished, and they may now face having a talented squad taken apart this summer. Dean Howson has already agreed to join Real Madrid, while left-back Milos Kerkez has been linked with a move to opponent City and champions Liverpool. But the Cherries showed few signs of making a comeback once they fell behind, though striker Evan Nilsson did strike the post, with Bournemouth hitting the woodwork a league-high 23 times this season. Kovacic's straight red card for pulling back Brazilian Evan Nilsson when through on goal provided a glimmer of hope, but they went down to 10 men after skipper Cook's mistime challenge. Jefferson scored in stoppage time, but Bournemouth, who have had an impressive season, fell flat at the wrong time, winning just one of their past 5 games and lying 11th in the table, 5 points adrift of 8th place Brighton. So Bournemouth boss Andoni Iraola told BBC Match of the Day, "We would have loved even to have taken it to the last game, even with some possibilities. We knew that it was today very difficult because it was not only this result, we needed a lot more. I don't think we've been bad. We needed to be at our very, very best to beat City today because I think they started the game very focused. I think they even rested some players the other day, thinking that today was big for them. You could see it from the beginning that it was just going to be tough. The Cherries boss added, in these kind of stadiums against this kind of opposition, you need the key moments to go to your side." Evan Nilsson hit the post, which could have made it 1-1, and then also the second red card when we were in a good situation with time to play against 10 players. Instead, straight away, it is 10 against 10 and everything goes even. I think our red card, you have to understand it. Lewis arrived. It was not a 50-50 ball. He arrives first and then tries to pull out. And this pulling out probably makes it look worse because he raises his foot and contact is higher. If you go maybe more strong, it will be more dangerous for Nico, harder, but it may be not a red card. You have to understand the game. Lewis wins the ball clear. It is a clear tackle, and then he tries to pull out. So I don't think it should be a red, but I understand also why he takes that decision. So we're going to discuss now Europe's over, City defeat, our thoughts. I tell you what, Malcolm, you've said before, it has been an absolutely outstanding season, really. We've had some real highs. Was this a real low, though?
It looked like an end of season game, the way we played. Hats off to City. They needed a reaction from the FA Cup, and they certainly they steamrolled us in the first half, to be honest with you. Overloaded the middle of the park, where we only had the 2 in there anyway. I think they've obviously 3-1's good for us. If it was 3-0, I would have had no complaints. Red cards, yes, with the first one was very obvious. The second can be debatable because Lewis did play the ball, but City were just miles too good for us, really. And bearing in mind we had a few players out as well, so tough one to take. But I'm not disappointed. I'm just taking all the positives from not only the first team but from the club. Really, everything that's going on around it this season has been it's what you dream about, and we go again.
Ollie, I know we spoke off air with regards to this game, and to be honest, City are an outstanding football team. We know that when they're on their day, they are on their day. You look at what they won, the treble. You look at how they've dominated English football for so long. But in this game, did we just make it too easy for them? Were we at the races?
Yeah, I think we lacked conviction and we lacked effort on the first touch. It didn't quite look like we were there to win a European place, if I'm being honest. And now, 100%, I echo a lot of Malcolm's words for sure. The way where we are at the minute, the season that we've had, the seasons to come over the next 3 to 5 years is only things to be absolutely outstandingly happy about, right? I just feel like last night there could have been a real explosive end to the season, and we could have achieved it. And maybe there was something there that we weren't pushing enough for. Maybe we were a bit scared to take that next step next season that quickly. Not sure. But just the conviction just wasn't there for me.
Matt, of course, at the moment we sit in 11th place in the Premier League. We've dropped into the bottom half for the first time in God knows how long now. If we finish 11th in the Premier League, should we be disappointed or should we be proud of the season that we've had?
That is a good question. I mean, it will be an improvement on last season. Progression, like we said at the start of the season, was key for this year. If we all go back to August, like we said plenty of times before, and come Christmas, we'd been 5th in the Premier League. I don't think, any of us would have probably have believed it, to be fair. Like I keep saying, on our tier list at the beginning of the season, I predicted we'd finish 10th, and I still think we'd do it. I think we'll beat Leicester on Sunday. It's going to be a hard game. Like I said last week, it's going to be a hard game, Leicester, but I've got a feeling we can grind that win out and hopefully some results go our way and we can clinch that 10th place spot. To finish 10th this season, I think shows a lot of progression. It's like you said, there's a plan. Bill and the club have a plan in place, and it would have been lovely to get Europe this year. It'd been fantastic, but there's a plan. There's a 5-year plan. We're halfway through it, and we're showing some great progress. So, I know there's been the comment just there that you've read out about, is the team going to get picked apart? But like I keep saying, we've got to have trust in our recruitment, and our recruitment's been excellent over the last few years. And some of the players' names that are being bashed about that, the club are being linked to, like we always know this time of the year, it's rife. And some of those names look extremely talented. So, the future's really bright. We can't be, disheartened by it. I'd like to finish 10th if we can. 11th, it's not the end of the world. We've had such a great season. We look back at games like Newcastle away, Forest at home, two sides that, at the time were doing really well.
Yeah.
We picked them apart. And there's other games, winning at Old Trafford again, beating Arsenal at home, beating City for the first time. There's so many memories to go over the season. And like Malcolm touched on as well, it's across the whole club as well. I mean, look at the ladies' season they've had. Unfortunately, the guys in the development squad lost 3-2 to Brentford, which is, a shame for them. But they've had a fantastic season. And there's so much talent in that squad. That development squad. Everything's on the up across the whole club. So, hopefully we can finish 10th, but can't be disappointed.
Of course, it looks like we are heading in the direction of a Category 1 academy. We have, like you say, got talent in reserve as well. How many chances will those youngsters get? That's a bit of a concern because, of course, we are attracting such good talent as well from elsewhere, but we can't moan about that. So it's a bit of a catch-22. But talking about one of the youngsters that was bought in, now I've seen on Twitter, X, horrible place to be honest, but I've seen a lot of fans blaming Julian Arejo. Now, what I want to throw to you guys is that the criticism is something I brought up a little while back, that defensively there's a lot to work on. The pace is a great asset to the team, but can you really play a player like Arejo when you have got Adam Smith, who is dependable, not as fast, not as what you would say would be able to get up and down the pitch as quickly as Arejo would be? Wouldn't it be better to play Adam Smith considering the experience? Or do you think we need to start bedding in Arejo? Malcolm, what do you make of Julian Arejo?
Well, first of all, he's been out a long time, through injury, so he hasn't had the minutes. And I think it's a bit unjustified, the criticism he's getting. It doesn't wash with me. Bearing in mind, we got the best points tally we've ever had. We're up to, like you say, 11th, maybe 10th. It'll happen. Hopefully, it will. Why not give him the minutes? He needs the minutes on the pitch to improve. And if you don't give him the time, how's he going to learn it? You know, Smithy, yeah, I go along with that because I mean, there isn't a better right back at the moment, but he won't go on forever, and he'll learn. I don't think it's going to take that long, and I'm pretty certain, you know, that Andoni's got his plans for what he wants for this coming season. Who knows who else we're going to get in, but you know, he's one for the future. He's young enough.
Yep.
He's just got to step up. That's all it is. So I'm not going to be player bashing any of them, and I see it from not only just with the right back position. That's what some fans write about other players, and I just can't get my head around it. I'm sorry. If they're supporters of the club, you've got to back them even when they're not doing particularly well.
100%.
You have to build them up a little bit and encourage them, which is what experienced players do on the field. When another player makes a mistake, they say, "Come on, we'll go again." You know, you don't hack them down, do you? You just got to get behind them, give them the push, and that's how they learn it. So I think it's all unfounded, any criticism, to be honest with you.
I think there's
That's
such
my
a thing. No, that's to be honest, I completely agree with every word you echo there. You know, Arejo is a youngster. You know, he seems to have bedded in nicely at the club. He seems to really buy in to the Bournemouth philosophy. But, you know, I think there's two criticisms. There's constructive criticism and abuse. And I think some of the stuff is verging on that abuse part. But let's talk about constructive criticism, Ollie, because looking at some of the players.
Sorry to interrupt, but absolutely, I think that it should be a credit where credit's given, and where it's due. And he was tenacious last night. You know, it was. You've got to remember, you're up against Manchester City wingers, so people can't be digging in and poking problems and creating that negativity, like Malcolm said, when you have been out injured, you haven't been given the game time, and you're up against one of the hardest teams in the world. It's going to be a tough game, and you're going to get criticism, I think. I don't think it helps that the midfield were overwhelmed. Again, coming back to what Malcolm said previously, Adams and Cook were completely unable to control any tempo or provide any real adequate support to the defence or to Evan Nilsson up front, who again had limited attacking options, but was doing everything he could trying to hold up play effectively. We can't be picking and poking on certain players when there's a whole team aspect here, and we've built a team philosophy over the last few years. So it's important that we continue working on that, and rather than picking separate players apart, for sure.
Yeah,
no, completely agree with you there, Ollie. Yeah, do agree with that. And, you know, I was going to say to you as well, I was going to say about that midfield. And I think, you know, the midfield was where this game was lost. But Matt, just to finally recap on this match, you know, of course, Man City, you know, still full of talent. One player, though, I think that did struggle, you know, and I think that he may be still nursing an injury. You know, we saw him play some fantastic football recently, but I think, you know, watching him against City, it looked like he was nursing an injury. Is Semenyo? It wasn't one of Semenyo's best games, but I don't want to criticise him at all because he's been so important this season, but B, I honestly think there's an injury that he's playing through.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, just to touch on what both Ollie and Malcolm have said about the midfield. I actually had someone text me during the game saying how poor Adams and Cook looked. Now, to be fair, yeah, they did, but that was because they were overrun. like Ollie and Malcolm have said, and they couldn't control that midfield. So yeah, they did look a bit sloppy, but that wasn't, really because just they were having a bad game. It was because literally City had control of that, and we just couldn't break it down and win the ball and start a passing game. It's so yeah, it's funny. And like obviously with our right back, Reho, I always say it wrong.
Reho.
He is a youngster, and you've got someone like Adam Smith who is so experienced, and I think very sound defensively as well. He needs game time. He's also challenging Smithy for his place, but the injury as well. He's not played a great deal of games. It's the same with the left back, Soler, if that's how these players need minutes, and they're bedding in fine into the club, and I think they look like they're great teammates. But minutes on the pitch do count, and I think you can't give out the criticism. I don't think that they've had, really, to be fair. I mean, like Ollie touched on, they're coming up against some of the best wingers in the world, and it's just crazy when you see that kind of criticism. But two very, very good players for the future of the club. Now, in answer to your question with Semenyo, I don't know personally, because I mean he's had a couple of good games recently again, didn't he? Which game that we were watching, and we both said he looks back to his best. I think if he is carrying an injury, we'll never know. Only obviously the club and the physios and all that would know about that. But it's been a long, hard season.
Oh yeah,
and they're getting tired now. And he has been. I mean, same with Clivert. I didn't think Clivert looked himself that first half, and when Brooksy come on, I thought Brooksy actually looked lively.
Yes.
So I mean, when you look across the board, your Semenyos, your Cliverts, it's been, and Clivert's also. I don't think he's really been on top form since his injury, which is always difficult to come back after an injury. So I think it's a combination of things rather than maybe just one potential issue.
And I think, one of Semenyo's great games recently has got to be that Arsenal victory. When he come off the bench, of course, we never expected him to do what he did, but he broke down that wing. He's fantastic. And maybe if there is an injury behind it, maybe that might have been the best situation, because he will run. He is a battler. He's a strong lad, and maybe that was probably the best position for him, was to come off the bench and have that influence. But hey, it's been a long, long season, like you say, and a lot of teams will falter, at this sort of time. And unfortunately, it seems like we've been doing that. But we've had fantastic seasons. So, hey, for finish 10th or 11th, it might not be our highest finish ever, but it's still been an outstanding season. Of course, we got the points record as well. So the points record for in the top flight. So yeah, it's an achievement. It's an achievement wherever we finish. But I tell you what, we'll come on to now is something else that's been part of social media furor recently, on Facebook, on X, on lots of multiple different platforms. But this is that the Cherries have been given a government warning over the club sponsor, of course, BJ88. So the Cherries are one of 5 Premier League teams warned about the risks of promoting unlicensed betting websites. AFC Bournemouth has been contacted by the Gambling Commission after regulatory action resulted in a white label gambling operator, TGP Europe, leaving the British market, meaning the club's sponsorship arrangements with BJ88 now lie with an unlicensed business. The Gambling Commission is seeking assurances from the club that they have carried out due diligence on their white label partners and that consumers in Great Britain cannot transact with the unlicensed sites. This will include ensuring they have assurances that steps have been taken to put in place effective geo-blocking of the sites from the UK. The Commission said it would also take steps to independently verify effective measures are in place. Club officials have been warned they could be liable to prosecution and, if convicted, face imprisonment and or a fine if they promote unlicensed businesses that transact with British consumers. The club's sponsorship agreement with BJ88 has been marred by controversy since it was first announced after betting site denied allegations of links to cockfighting in the Philippines in August last year. The Commission's head of enforcement, John Pearce, said, "We have already been in contact with several football clubs to highlight the impact of the withdrawal from the market by TGP and make clear that we will be carrying out checks without further notice to ensure these sites remain blocked. It is essential that football clubs play their part in protecting fans and Great British consumers who may be exposed to advertising of these sites through their sponsorship arrangements from harm or exploitation. All licensed operators with similar arrangements to TGP should take notice of the action in this case." So Burnley, Fulham, Newcastle and Wolves were also contacted by the Gambling Commission regards to its sponsorship agreements. In 2023, Premier League clubs collectively agreed to withdraw all gambling sponsors from the front of matchday shirts from the 2026-27 season. So,
Well,
this is...
yeah, so what I was just going to say, before obviously we discuss our issues with our sponsor, I just done a little bit of research and got some other stuff together about how shirt sponsorships have changed over the years, and I found it quite interesting actually, because I didn't realise that, you know, if you go back years ago, how many different companies were involved in shirt sponsorship and things like that. So, but I'll hand back over to you, Craig, because you know, you're the maestro.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll carry on reading then. So, how shirt sponsorship has changed. So, from 1992 to 2025. So, here we go. So, pictured here are some of AFC Bournemouth sponsors over the years. And what can you notice? Not a gambling logo in sight. So, just quickly before we move on, do you know what? I love some of these sponsors. A1 windscreens, anybody? Cooper Beers, of course. Alcohol sponsorship is, you know, banned now, so that one wouldn't be allowed. But Malcolm, you probably have got a couple of shirts with these sponsors on them. I tell you what, it's nostalgia, these sponsors. You know, the yellow coaches one, you know, everybody loves the shirts, you know, with yellow coaches, the Seaward Vauxhall and, you know, Rover ones, which I've got on here, you know, everybody loves those sort of sponsors, don't they?
I think they're pretty cool, to be honest with you. Exchange and Mark.
Yes.
Is that still around?
No, I don't think
No.
it is. No.
I know they used to be based in Poole, didn't they? They had a big office down there. Used to employ quite a lot of people, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's just the world's gone mad. Sorry, you know, it's just a name on a shirt. Come on. That's the way I see it.
Come into that in a moment, but I tell you what.
Can I throw something else at you, Craig?
Go on.
So you got like Emirates, so an airline, big airline company, you know, polluting the world, you know. So CO2 and all this nonsense. it don't work for me. There's enough problems in the world without worrying about stuff like this.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. And to be honest, I do get your point as well with Emirates and of course others as well, which you could say, aren't. Of course, you could say car manufacturers. Car manufacturers sponsor used to sponsor football teams, of course. Rover,
Yeah.
Pollution, but Ollie, some of those shirts are iconic and the sponsors that go along with them are iconic, but also the thing is all of these sponsors sponsored us at a lower level. Is it a case that we can have a local sponsor, if we were in League Two or League One or the Championship, but when we are in the top flight, we have to dance with the devil to actually keep or compete with the likes of Man City and Arsenal.
100%, yeah. But does the devil have to be gambling websites internationally? There's lots and lots and lots of other sponsors that we could be picking.
Yeah.
I think given the thought around gambling as a whole and everything that went on over the last couple of seasons with certain footballers, getting banned for gambling issues or these issues within sport shouldn't be there. It should be a transparent sport, right? So
Yeah.
I think if you're picking a sponsor, it'd be good to go with a transparent sponsor. I don't necessarily think that you should be picking a gambling sponsor anyway because of what that looks like. But, as Malcolm said, it is a name on a shirt and it is just a company that's going to throw money at a team. It might be your team. It might be 5 other teams. So who's to say that we should say no to that if that sponsor wins the betting and the budgeting at the start? So it's a tough one. It's a tough one to balance, right?
Yeah. I mean, what you'll learn from this is that who actually has the money in this day and age to now throw at sponsorship. That's the thing. That's the thing. Is it's a totally different world now in football sponsorship.
Yeah, it used to be huge marketing, right? You used to have so much going on with marketing, and if you get your name on the front of that shirt, then you've won in the marketing world. But nowadays, digital marketing is so much stronger than you having a name on a shirt, especially a name on a shirt for a club like Bournemouth that won't necessarily hit all of the Sky Sports channels, all of the TNT channels. How much difference does it make?
Yeah.
Well, there was once an era when top English clubs had household names on their shirts. Liverpool had Crown Paints, Manchester United had Sharp, and Arsenal wore JVC's logo on home and away shirts. The Cherries, then in the lower leagues, had local companies displayed on the front of their shirts, including Frizzell and Seawoods, to name a couple. In the Cherries' first season in the Premier top flight, though, the famous red and black stripes have displayed the logos of big worldwide gambling companies with Mansion, Dafabet, and this season BJ88 having the shirt rights. For a short while, Vitality had their logo on our shirts in between the shirt sponsorship deals as the club's deal with Mansion ended during the COVID period. MSP Capital, a local finance company, sponsored the shirts while the Cherries spent 2 seasons back in the Championship. It is reported that Premier League clubs have made over 100 million from gambling firms in shirt sponsorship deals this season. So the 2024-25 season. The pie chart picture shows which industries sponsor clubs in the English top flight. A total of 11, which is over half of the clubs, are sponsored by gambling firms across the world. Shirt sponsors are now not looking at selling physical products from this type of sponsorship. Other industries like electrical, construction, and tech have almost disappeared from the front of football shirts. And look at that. So you've got air travel. So Etihad and Emirates for Arsenal and Man City. Financial services, of course, Brighton have got the long-standing deal with American Express. Liverpool have got Standard Chartered, and of course AIA with Spurs. Entertainment, Newcastle, of course, sponsored by an entertainment company, although I believe partly that is gambling as well. I might be incorrect. And of course, Ipswich Town are sponsored by Ed Sheeran, and then Man United is sponsored by a technology company, so a software development house. But
the two air travel ones, for example, are both stadium naming rights as well as the shirt. And the long term, obviously, Man City, their owners own Etihad, and you look on that pie chart there, and there's a massive problem that I think clubs are going to have in the near future when the gambling sponsorship does stop, because who's going to be sponsoring these 11 odd clubs here?
Well, I tell you what, here's a little game. Tell me how many of the big six are actually sponsored by gambling sponsors?
None.
This is the problem. So, of course, clubs like Wolves, even clubs like Everton and Aston Villa, are having to get these gambling sponsors in to kind of make, a fraction of what the likes of Manchester United, because it is a global brand. And, their Snapdragon are quite happy to sponsor them because their shirts are seen all over the globe. Spurs, AIA, all right, not as popular as Manchester United, but again, are quite happy to, sponsor them. Arsenal, Emirates, of course, recognised across the world. Manchester City is an interesting one, even though they are the champions. Etihad, are sponsoring them because of their owners are based in Abu Dhabi. And of course, there is the stadium naming rights. And it's a big thing over in Abu Dhabi. Although, what's quite funny about Abu Dhabi is when I went over there, I didn't even meet a single Man City fan. In fact, I saw an Aston Villa fan before, I saw anybody relating to Man City. I didn't see one. I saw a Man City plane. That was about it. The only two really that you can say are probably not big clubs over there is Brighton and Ipswich. And Ipswich is probably a drag over from the Championship sponsorship. Ed Sheeran's probably thrown him a load of money before that season kicks off.
He's
And
sponsored for a couple of years, hasn't he? Ed Sheeran.
He has, yeah. And plus he is quite rich as well.
What's also interesting from this is slightly what Ollie touched on with how many times shirts and that are seen on the likes of Sky Sports and football coverage and things like that. It also goes down to shirt sales. Now, if you're a technology company, Snapdragon, that's sponsoring Man United, how many shirts are being sold with Snapdragon on across the world?
Exactly.
Well,
that's another thing as well, isn't it?
If you compare those numbers, it says here the Premier League clubs have made over 100 million from gambling firms. So there's 11 clubs, 100 million. You'd think just under 10 million each, right? Man United have probably sold 30 million in shirts, 40 million in shirts. So already it supersedes any even close competition.
Yeah.
The big question is would Snapdragon really want to sponsor AFC Bournemouth when AFC Bournemouth shirts, and I'm not being funny here, and this is going to be a bit of a, to and fro in, and this is where a lot of fans might, get the ump with me, who have been criticising this deal. Are Snapdragon really going to sponsor AFC Bournemouth? Or, when this gambling ban comes in, which don't get me wrong, I'm not against, is it going to create a bigger disparity between the haves and have-nots? But let's move on from that chart. At the start of the maiden Premier League season, 1992-93, 21 out of the 22 teams had shirt sponsors in place. Only Wimbledon wore shirts without a logo. you can see there wasn't a single gambling company in sight. Alcohol sponsorship would later be banned, but there was tech, construction, clothing, and many other sectors willing to sponsor. But what has changed? As you can see there, 4 alcohol sponsors: automotive with Coventry, that's Subaru. Pharmaceutical, is that Pfizer's? I don't even think they exist anymore.
No, I don't think they do.
But as you can see, technology was the big thing. So companies like NEC with Everton, JVC with Arsenal. I'm trying to think. I can remember Rover being Villa's sponsor. But
Was it Sanderson's with Sheffield Wednesday, wasn't it?
yeah, I think Sanderson's was Sheffield Wednesday, but then Southampton also had Sanderson's as well, didn't they?
Later on they did, yeah, mid-90s.
Yeah. So this was a time and an era, Man City, brother, Man United, sharp. This was a time when there was zero, gambling sponsors. And, but what has actually changed? Is it that, let's have a little look at this. So the first Premier League season, 7 Premier League shirt sponsors had head offices based within 100 miles of their club. There were 4 based 10 miles from their club stadium. 2 clubs, Sheffield United and Ipswich, had shirt sponsors located less than a mile away. Fast forward to 2025, and only Liverpool are based within 1,000 miles of their shirt sponsors' main base. The average distance between a club and the shirt sponsor's main office in 1992-93 was 1,859 miles. Today, the average has shot up to 4,431 miles. I believe, if I'm right in thinking, that's between here and must be probably about Cyprus, Turkey, mustn't it? That
Well, I
sort of.
don't know, you tend to travel the world, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to. Do you know what? I'll have to do a little bit of research on that because
I've gone to New York, I think.
to New York.
Yeah, 4,400 miles.
It's got to be, it's got to be out to New York, isn't it?
Crikey, and that, in
Roughly.
fact, London to New York is less miles. It's 3,461 miles.
Wow.
So it goes to show it's a bit crazy, really. So this is what has been said. In the UK, there are around 70 million people, but worldwide, you're talking about a marketplace of billions, says Dr. Joe Piggin, senior lecturer in the sports management and policy at the University of Loughborough. So he told this to the BBC. So the economic incentives are there for the companies. Over the years, finance has changed across the world, but what should the Premier League do? The Premier League should look after itself, Piggins says, not just in terms of the economic sustainability, but in terms of connecting with their local communities. So this is who sponsors shirts across Europe. So gambling is 15%, retail is 12%, air travel, automotive, finance, financial services, food and drink, all 10%. So there's a bigger chunk there in Europe than there is in the UK. Of course, Celtic's on there. Of course, Daffabet, UK, but mostly in Scotland, it is more local. So research shows that gambling advertisements were shown more than 29,000 times in the UK during the first weekend of this Premier League season. 29,000 times, almost trebling their previous campaign's figure. Gambling advertising has become almost inextricably linked to football and the industry, which makes concerted effort to target young men, which is the profile most likely to develop problems with gambling, says Matt Zarb-Cousin, co-founder of Gambin software, which aims to help users quit online gambling. There's a generation that growing up in an environment that associates with watching football with betting. They've been conditioned to believe it's a normal thing to do as part of enjoying sport. And do you know what? I'm going to throw something out here, and this is quite interesting. Of course, this YouTube channel has adverts. Those adverts play before, after, and sometimes in the middle as well. YouTube decides exactly when that is. Now, if anybody's noticed, there's one or two things that's happening. It's either things that you search for on a device or a phone or on your internet or down through your ISP. So that's one of the first things. If you search for hotels in Bath, for example, it will pop up with hotels in Bath. If you're searching for concert tickets to watch, so-and-so, Robbie Williams, whoever, it will pop up with concert tickets or, advertising, that sort of thing. So that's one part. But the other part of the sponsorship model that is being pushed onto YouTube and other platforms is, of course, determined on the sector a channel specializes in. Now, travel channel will get, of course, Flybe or, EasyJet, or, I see a lot for Dubai because, of course, I search for Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It'll it'll push those sort of adverts when I'm watching a travel documentary like Walking with Tim or Callum Bow or Bald and Bankrupt or Simon Wilson, all those great channels. I've noticed sometimes when I watch this channel or when I watch fellow football podcasters, because of sport, it might advertise Puma. I saw a Puma thing with Manchester City, playing around, the other day. But it also pushes a lot of gambling companies. And that is nothing that we can do anything about. Those gambling companies are getting into the media. You see it on Sky Sports. You see it on TNT. You see it everywhere. Hey, for God's sake, this whole of the Football League is sponsored by Sky Bet. Okay, it's not one of these white label, gambling companies. But what it is it is a gambling company. It's still, if I wanted to go and put £500 on AFC Bournemouth versus Leicester this weekend and say they would take it. They would take it, as would Daffabet or Mansion or, whoever sponsors Everton, Stake, or, or anybody who sponsors, or pays for the adverts that go onto YouTube or Sky Sports or TNT. So this is the difficult thing now, is that sport is trying to eradicate these sponsors. Firstly, the EFL have to get rid of the Sky Bet. You can't have one rule for one rule for all, another. So they've got to get rid of Sky Bet. But these sponsors, these gambling companies, are just going to be pushed in other directions, aren't they, Matt?
Yeah, I suppose so.
There's nothing I can do about it, or there's nothing that a Everton channel can do about it, or a Newcastle channel, or a Leicester channel. It is what is seeming to happen. So just moving on to that, and what I'm going to do is just going to cover off this part. According to the UK Gambling Commission's latest figures, gambling firms earned revenue of 15.1 billion between April 2022 and March 2023. That income has given them plenty spent on advertising, and even with some of the front of shirt ban looming, some believe they will move their advertising into other areas like pitchside hoardings, maybe even shirt sleeves. See, I haven't seen this, so what I'm doing is I'm giving it, as it is, exactly. Pitchside hoardings, shirt sleeves, YouTube channels. God only knows where it's going to go. The front of shirt sponsorship withdrawal appears symbolic, Piggins says. I'm quite sceptical about the significance of that move beyond public relations. Under 18s are not allowed to wear shirts with gambling sponsors, meaning young players have featured in games with sponsor-free jerseys. And of course, if anybody's seen a Leicester City game where a Monga has come on, who's only 15 years old, he'll play without the gambling sponsor on the front.
Yeah, with a plain shirt.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's give our views on betting sponsors, and we've covered a bit there. Malcolm, do you like this sponsor, and would you rather a local firm be sponsoring AFC Bournemouth?
I think obviously it would be good for the community if it is a local sponsor, first of all. How much money are they prepared to put into it? What does it cost to advertise on a shirt?
Mm.
Knowing that it's going to be televised X amount of times in a season, with the possibility of added television hours, if you like, through cup competitions. When this first came out with BJ88, the first thing I thought, well, what is it? I didn't have a clue what it was. I thought, well, for me, it's just a name on a shirt, and I wouldn't even look beyond that. Do they need to have it? It's generating revenue, isn't it? Somebody's earning a lot of bucks from it, and it doesn't matter what the sponsor is. My guess is that probably, well, it must happen before 26/7 anyway. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Bill's going to have something up his sleeve and speak with his people and try and get some sort of deal arranged as owner. That he'll just flatten everything and say, look, we're going to be transparent, we're going to be clean, and we're going to find the right people who are prepared to put the money up, and it's all going to be above board. I mean, I don't like the way it's all getting involved with not only us but all the other clubs that have gambling sponsors, and it's the way of the world, isn't it? And then suddenly, because of the problems that gambling causes, like alcohol and drugs and whatever else, they're just trying to say, look, no, we don't want it. But it's a little bit sort of bit odd when they say, well, okay, we're going to take it off the front of the shirt, maybe put it on the sleeve. And then, as you say, what about the hoardings around the pitches and everything, or somewhere up above or whatever? The camera's going to pick it up. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I want to watch a football game, I want to see football. I don't want to be looking at advertising hoardings and God knows what else. Just doesn't interest me. But somebody's going to be wanting to make money somehow, some way. Simple as that. Just
Ollie,
my view.
Of course, there is talk. Of course, we've got to do something with regards to this gambling sponsor. Who I don't know whether or not BJ88 have paid, for the 2-year sponsorship. So whether or not, they've paid up front and now, they've been told to leave the UK market. What does the club do at this point? Do we, if they have paid up front, do we put on charities? Do we resell it? Because there's a lot of questions now about, what happens for next season.
Yeah, so I'm under the impression, yet to be corrected, that they have not paid, and that each of these individual clubs represented by BJ88 will have to go through their own legal processes against BJ88 moving forward. So I think we've all been caught in a storm that's been created. Maybe, not through anyone's fault. Maybe this happens, who knows with gambling companies that don't operate in the UK. We don't know. We know of the Sky Bets, we know of Ladbrokes and Coral, and they've represented high streets for us for years and years and years. But when you start bringing on these random digital companies that you can just go and sign up to anywhere in the world, maybe that is a little bit risky, backing someone like that as a sponsorship. I think at the moment, what the best thing that we can do as a club, echoing what Malcolm said, Bill is going to have to get involved. Unfortunately, he's got a big name. He's got a lot of companies that back him. But again, there's certain rules around owners, companies having sponsorship directly in the clubs, right? So it's going to be tricky for him to have an input there. But I think we have to cut ties with gambling, and we have to maybe do something local and take it on the chin that off the top line we're going to be losing out somewhere along the sponsorship line for the next season. But, as a community club and as a transparent club and as a club that's trying to go in the right direction, let's just cut our ties, take the loss, and move forward as best we can with our heads held high.
Matt, do you echo all that as well?
Yeah, but just to touch on a couple of points there. Firstly, the club actually did pay an external company, to actually do their research and look into this group, their due diligence, and they paid quite a hefty price for that, I believe. Quite a substantial fee to a company that have probably not done their job right. Now, that's what I heard, whether that's true or not, but they did pay someone to do their due diligence on BJ88 and the group. That's what I heard. So if that's the case, then them for a start obviously haven't done their job right.
Cause for blame somewhere, right?
Say again, sorry?
Cause for blame somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's a funny old thing, isn't it? Now, the value of a Premier League shirt is going to obviously hold more weight than a League Two shirt. No disrespect to League Two clubs. I mean, we've been there ourselves for many, many years. But, when you've got Focal Point Fires on your shirt in League Two, that is a local company. It's going to be seen locally a lot. The thing is when you're on TV all around the world, the shirt becomes more appealing for these gambling firms because, I think they wanted, this group, is it TG, whoever it is?
Yeah.
They wanted, and that's why they've got Fulham and is it Everton as well? And they wanted to get all their different brands on there because they've got the exposure across the world. It's not really for the English market that they want it for, it's for the global market. So, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, this is why I said a little bit earlier, who is actually out there that's going to sponsor these shirts in this day and age? I think it's going to be a big challenge going forward. But myself, I kind of agree with Malcolm, it is just a name on a shirt at the end of the day. But I do understand the whole connotations around it. Firstly, I think if I was a female, I don't think I'd want to wear BJ88 across my shirt. Just because everyone associates it with, BJ. So yeah, personally, I wouldn't like it. I don't think of it. I mean, I know my wife don't like the shirts with that splashed across it, but I do understand the seriousness of it. And I just think long term we should move away from it. But I mean, it's like Malcolm was saying, if it's going to be on the whole hoardings going around, the stadium, if it's going to be on the sleeve, what's the difference? You either get rid of it completely. Because think it this way, alcohol was banned how many years ago? 20 odd years ago, 20, 25 years ago?
I don't even think it was that long ago because didn't Everton have Chang for, going back to... Oh, When did they change that? Did they change that when we got into the top flight? I'm sure they had Chang'e still on their
Coming up
shirt.
10 years then, isn't it? Anyway, either so,
Yeah,
you're not allowed it on your shirts anymore.
yeah.
But Man City have got beer sponsorship on their training shirts. So I don't really see what the
And they've even got, I believe something to do with it on, I think, is it the sleeve or no? It might be the training shirt. So
it's
kids
definitely on their training shirts, 100%
yeah,
their training wear. So I don't understand what the difference is.
and kids are going to be going into the ground and looking at Erling Haaland, and going, yeah, I want a picture with Erling, and there he is with Ashi, isn't it? A Japanese beer over the front of the shirt, and I completely agree with that. Just going on back onto BJ88 though, and I feel really, really sorry for Jim Fravola, who of course is our president of business at AFC Bournemouth, because yes, he's been badly advised by this company who, I don't like. And as you know, Matt, I have got all of the shirts this season, and all of them are without this horrid logo on them. I don't like BJ88. I don't like what it stands for. I don't like, I read about the cockfighting thing and I don't like it. However, what Jim Fravola's having online, you know, like the other day, 4 days ago, he posted a picture of him and maybe, I guess it's his partner or his daughter, by the by, doesn't matter. And people going, nice walk before your court date. Get the sun, pal. I don't know how much it will make it into your cell. Go back to Vegas. And he is a businessman. What he's done is he's looked at two opportunities. Now, opportunity one is with potentially a UK based company. Let's say a UK based local company. That deal is worth 4 million. Now, the other deal is with BJ88 and it's worth double that. Now, it goes without saying, if and you put it into, let's relate it to something else as well. To put it into perspective. You're looking for cars. You've picked a car that's worth 40 grand and you want that car. Now, company one that you go to says we'll give you 20 grand, and that car 20 grand but at an interest rate of 15%. Company two is BJ88, like pretend like that, will offer you the 40 grand, but say for example they will charge you 2.5% interest. So you really want that car that's 40 grand. You don't want one. You haven't looked at one that's worth 20 grand. Which one seriously are you going to go for, even if that one that's offering the 40 grand has got bad connotations? I can see why Jim Fravola has made the deal that he has decided to do. Would you agree?
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Given the
Well,
information.
it's a good point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bill Foley has tasked him with a job of getting the best sponsor for the money. He's got this company that's cost him a bit of an arm and a leg to go in there, do the research, and they've seen nothing wrong. If anybody's at fault, it's not Jim Favola, it's not AFC Bournemouth, it's that company. Like I say, I don't like BJ88. I don't like them as our sponsors. I read about the cockfighting thing. It's a horrible company, but I do not blame Jim Favola for signing this deal. It's now a case of what do we do now it has come out? What is the case? How do we get out of this? And I think gambling sponsorship, hey, is it going to be out? It's going to be banned, in a couple of years' time anyway. Like you say, it's going to be around the ground. It's going to be, on training shirts potentially, like alcohol sponsors. And they're going to go somewhere else So it's either got to be that we eradicate it from everywhere or not at all.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
And the other thing is how much
Are
of
they
a
are they under contract here, Craig? For so many years.
BJ88, yeah, it's a 2-year deal. So of course it's going to be down to Bill Foley and Jim Favola how we get out of that contract now. If you go to the AFC Bournemouth website and try and click BJ88's logo at the bottom of the website or the other gambling sponsor on there, what it will do is it will just loop back to the AFC Bournemouth website.
Same page, yeah. It's they got a 2-year deal, haven't they, this year and next season?
Yeah.
But surely, if they've lost their UK rights, surely they're in breach of their deal. Surely.
You would
Because
like to think so.
they legally can't display it, can they? They legally can't display it on their shirt. So they've got to be in breach of their deal, surely.
But do they have to pay Bournemouth the money? And do they have to pay Burnley and Fulham and Wolves?
I thought they did. I thought they absolutely did have to pay out for sure to each of these clubs.
Interesting. Sorry, Malcolm, you were about to say something. Sorry, Malcolm.
All I was going to add on is that this has got to disappear to up to 26-7 season, hasn't it?
Yes.
That means so next year would be all right, but still be allowed to have it. All right, up until the end of next season, basically. Is that right? Is that the way I see correctly?
Well,
they'd be allowed to display gambling on their shirt, but probably not the specific sponsor due to the issue.
Okay. Right. Okay, that's the issue there. Then. Okay.
Sounds like it's going to be quite a big
legal battle.
Yeah.
The question is I think, if it goes to court because of the Gambling Commission has made this ruling and decided on this, that I think the clubs, if they team together, would probably win against this sponsor. Now, one or two things is going to happen. The sponsor doesn't pay out, or, the sponsor does pay out, but what happens if, say, for example, AFC Bournemouth find another sponsor to put over the shirts? Is that a case that we're in breach of the original contract and then have to pay the money back to BJ88? Now, the other question is do we get around that? This is happened at probably the worst possible time. If it happened mid-season, at least there would be some leeway, some time to do it. Whereas now we're left with a point of we've got 3 months to actually sort this out. And court cases take a long time. Do we put, a charity's name on there like Julia's House, which would be lovely, which would be great? Do we do that? And, with the basis that we're going to get this money, that we're expecting to get this money, or do we go out and just find another sponsor but potentially be in breach? It's probably for the question for somebody who's a bit more of a legal eagle than me.
A minefield, isn't it?
Yeah. That's how I would describe it.
Well, I tell you what, let's move on to something a little bit more cheerful. And of course, this man, Ryan Christie, has been given the Mickey K Daily Echo Cherries Player of the Season. And Ollie, I want to throw it over to you. Considering the amount of talent that is in this squad, how much of a statement is this about how important this man is?
Yeah, I think it's a huge statement. I think it's an absolutely huge statement. I think, and it comes down to not necessarily, I think you can point some players out for some finesse or some real big moments that they've created on the pitch this season. But I don't think we would have had our fluidity consistently without Ryan Christie. It's as simple as that. I think that without him on the pitch, we would have been lacking a number of things in a number of games this season. And although he may not have scored the goals, he may not have really stood out in some of these games, but crikey, without him behind the scenes, yeah, he's a figure on the pitch for me.
Most definitely. And Matt, if I said to somebody who he's a football fan, but not a Bournemouth fan. Name 5 AFC Bournemouth players. They probably wouldn't pick Ryan Christie, but Ryan Christie is the heartbeat of this team, and we miss him, don't we, when he's out?
Yeah, well, you clearly see that from the games that he's been out this season.
Yeah.
I mean, his work ethic, his intensity. He's virtually run our midfield this season. No disrespect to Adams and Cook. Both had decent seasons, but taking this man out of the middle of the park has been a huge loss. He's you look back over the season. Semenyo's had a great season. Clivert scored a hat-trick of penalties at Wolves and a hat-trick at Newcastle. And like Ollie just touched on, there's so many players that have done so many things on the pitch this season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is just absolute credit to Ryan, and it just shows how much the fans have, even though we've had all those great performances from other players, it just shows really how much the fans have appreciated that work ethic in our midfield. And stick Ryan in the midfield against City the other night, and maybe we may not have struggled as much in the midfield as we potentially did. But shame to lose him for injury, but I think this is a fantastic end to his season to be named winner of the Mickey Cave Daily Echo Player of the Year, which is been won by so many great Cherries over the years, and his name's going to be forever etched into that trophy, and deservedly so. I mean, I've got to admit, I was there thinking, when I was doing my vote, I was thinking, Semenyo, Clivert, and I can't. It's got to be Christie. And I think a lot of fans would be, thinking like that, even though we've watched some tremendous football this season and there's been some excellent performances across that pitch consistently. Christie does stand out. And not only that, you've got to give the guy credit. He's not naturally been such a deep player. Obviously, he was more of a sort of behind the front man winger type player at Celtic. So he's adapted his game as well and has been excellent. So it's very, very thoroughly deserved, in my opinion.
And Malcolm, talking about when he, joined from Celtic all that time ago, how much has he grown from that point to where he is now?
Much has he grown? Well, you really got to ask Andoni that question, not me. But what the guy he's the engine, isn't he?
Yeah.
In the team, I didn't hesitate. I put my vote in, and he was top of the list. Yes, some standout moments from many of the other players, but he just stands head and shoulders. I was a little bit surprised actually because I saw the results, and he got 30%. Ryan Christie actually got 30%. And I thought 30%, couldn't it have been more? But that just shows you, the fan base and what they pick. Obviously, loads of people will pick their favorite player.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I think maybe from the purists or I don't know, people with more knowledge about the game can actually see what he brings to the team and what is missing when he's not there. And as you rightly pointed out, when he's not been playing, it's been pretty tough. It's been a tough watch, but he's now. And I still can't believe they play him on the wing for Scotland, but never mind, it's something else, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. To be honest, at the Euros, I didn't think that he did particularly brilliant, but I think that Steve Clarke was playing him in completely the wrong position. He doesn't understand him as a player, where Andoni does, and he's the heartbeat. He's the heartbeat of this football team. Like I say, he's probably underappreciated by everybody, apart from Bournemouth fans, who realise how important this man is. When I say name 5 players, they probably go for the Dean Howsons, the Kirkes, the Clivert, Semenyo, Evan Nilsson, and Ryan Christie will probably be down the bottom of that list, but he is so important, so integral to how this football team plays and keeps going and beating. And, I think he's a fantastic player. He's a fantastic signing, when we signed him all that time ago. And he's just got better and better and better and better, to the point where he is today. And I think he'll get better still. And like you say, Matt, it shows how much we miss him.
Yeah.
Can I throw a question in here?
Go for it.
Any of you guys ever see Mickey Cave play?
No.
Oh, okay. So
my dad has seen Mickey Cave play. And he went out to America as well, didn't he, Mickey Cave? He went and played out in America, didn't he, for some time?
I think he did, yeah.
No, my dad does remember him very fondly. But then, my dad, similar to yourself, Malcolm, had such a great era of, players that, we've got the privilege to see. Obviously, we're having that era ourselves now, obviously,
That's right, yeah.
We did never get to see McDougall and Boyer and, Mickey Cave and, even...
just so many of them, yeah. I mean, they were a superb team, what they had back then in the 70s, it's just unbelievable. And that was a step up, and it's like you say, it's eras or comes in phases, doesn't it? Where obviously when you're down the bottom and nothing's happening, and then suddenly you get a boost and something happens, and it just draws everybody in together and let's go. And we're very fortunate, to be where we are today. I've seen the highs and the lows, basically. It's the one dream, obviously, is to get over and see them live. What a dream! So I might be asking for some tickets some way somehow, but I'll have to sort something out in the summer through the club.
Cherries. Yeah. No, definitely.
That's my plan. But no, hats off to Ryan. Fully deserved. Yeah. Class act.
Most definitely. Well, we have got one game remaining, and of course, I did speak to Chris from Leicester Till I Die. Somebody had to. No, he's a good laugh. He's a good laugh. Mad as a box of frogs, but yeah, somebody had to speak to Chris. But of course, we have got the Foxes visiting Dean Court this weekend, and they're not very happy with their manager, Ruud van Nistelrooy. They took over from Steve Cooper. There was a lot of criticism about Cooper. Didn't particularly like him because of the fact that he managed Nottingham Forest. But they kind of shot themselves in the foot. Did you expect Leicester to be where they were, guys?
I'll be honest, no. I didn't think they would do. I'd be as disappointing, I think the words are. Correct. I don't want to say as bad because, there's teams that have been worse for sure. And you have different expectancies of different teams at the start of the league, right? And I don't think anyone thought this would happen to Leicester. But it's been hugely disappointing in my view. And I think it'll be a Bournemouth 2-0 win and we'll finish 10th or 9th. I think it'll be 10th, won't it?
Yeah. It will be. It will be. Malcolm, are you surprised with Leicester this season? Of course, they're a bit better than Southampton, but then again, everybody is. To be honest, even Derby County back in, I think it was 2008, nearly was, had it not been for West Ham. But Malcolm, are you surprised?
I am really, because in the first few weeks of the season it doesn't take long. I mean, the season kicks off quite quickly, and suddenly there are teams that are not really up to it. You'll see that, and obviously the teams that get promoted, generally they're going to be in the lower part of the table anyway. But I thought, to be honest with you, that Wolves were going to be the ones that would be going down with Southampton. Ipswich, I thought might just scrape through. It was really weird, and then suddenly, things change. Managers come and go, players come and go, and for whatever reason, Leicester are down. But look at their last games that they played. So it's not going to be a pushover. I'll go for a 2-1 win. I'll be happy with that, depending what starting 11 we put out. Because obviously Cookie's not going to be there, suspended. So who's he going to throw in the middle?
Yeah, because we've got Scott injured and we've got Christie out, Cook out. Who's going to play in the centre of the park?
They bring Brooksy in.
Yeah, possibly.
It's not really his position, but
no. But who else? Yeah.
Adaptability. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah,
but I'll go for a 2-1. Mr. Vardy won't be there, so
I forgot about that.
I was actually looking here at our tier list, and we actually predicted Southampton to finish bottom, and then Leicester.
Wow.
So we actually predicted, but we were horrifically wrong because we also predicted Forest to go down.
Oh, crikey. Yes, we did, didn't we?
To stay up. So we couldn't have been any more wrong with that one. But as for Saints and Leicester, we actually predicted them to go down.
What do you reckon this score's going to be, Matt?
It's going to be a tough game, isn't it? They're not going to want to go down, without a fight. I know there's lots of speculation about Rude's job, but who cares from our perspective? I think they shot themselves in the foot. I think you're right. I think possibly by maybe the appointment in the first place, because the football between the two managers, what's his name? He went to Chelsea. And Cooper, two totally different types of football. And then when you're so used to playing the fluid football that they were playing, and then they're trying to play in the Cooper way, doesn't work. So did they appoint the right person in the first place? In fairness to Cooper, longevity wise, were they right to sack him, or should they have stayed with him? Because they probably, I think, would have had better chance of staying up with him. Than, no disrespect to Ruud van Nistelrooy, than probably staying up with a manager change. But who cares? Not my club, so not bothered. But unlucky. But we should win it, I think. I think it's going to be a tough game. They're going to dig in. I think probably, something like a scoreline of 2-1. They might rattle us a little bit at times. He's got to work out who he's going to play in that midfield. I'm just going through the squad in my head now, thinking who's going to play there. I don't think he'll want to sacrifice his formation. I think he'll want to keep that. I don't know. Can someone like a James Hill play in that? Because he's not a bad passer of the ball. Can he play in there for one game? I mean, I know when we had an injury during a game once, I know Nathan Ake got pushed into that kind of role. And so other players are versatile. So it will be interesting to see who plays. Maybe he brings a youngster in last game of the season, give a youngster some minutes. Who knows?
Possible.
Yeah. So, but it's last game of the season. It's at home. We know there's nothing to play for apart from obviously to be as high as possible. Obviously, it means a little bit more money in the pot, doesn't it? Pressure's off. But do we always play well when there's no pressure? Do we play better against the better sides than we do the lower sides? I think we do sometimes. I think we'll edge it 2-1.
Well, I'm going to be a bit of a dampener now because I would be. Sorry.
Someone's got to be, isn't they? Do you know what I mean? We might as well just let him carry on with it, ain't we?
Yeah.
To be honest, I think Leicester have been better than they have been all season under Ruud van Nistelrooy in the past couple of weeks. The reason being, of course, they got that 2-2 draw against Forest. Marinakis wasn't very happy about that, as you could see on Sky Sports. But I personally think they've improved when the pressure is off themselves. Now, there is obviously the big thing that Jamie Vardy isn't playing. Of course, Jamie Vardy will be looked at as somebody who did the unthinkable with Leicester, winning the Premier League. And I'm sure that most fans, apart from Wayne and Colleen Rooney, will wish him the very, very best of luck. I made that joke with Chris, actually, and I nearly killed him off. He nearly choked on his Coca-Cola that he was drinking. Sorry, Chris, if you're watching. Hope you've recovered from that. But yeah, I think personally, Leicester have looked better more recently than they have beforehand. Whereas with ourselves, I think that Villa game took the stuffing out of us. After Arsenal, everybody was buzzing, everybody was driving forwards, everybody was thinking that, Europe was ours. And then we come back down to earth with a massive bump against Villa. And then, of course, went up to City. Wasn't particularly one of our better performances. I don't think Leicester are going to beat us, not in a million years. But I can see the season, sadly, whimpering out with a 1-1 draw rather than what it should end on, which is an absolute hammering of Leicester. Because Ruud van Nistelrooy, as you say, Matt, I completely agree actually with you. I haven't thought of that, and I didn't bring that up actually in our preview. That Steve Cooper was the wrong man in the first place. Ruud van Nistelrooy was definitely the wrong man once they got rid of Cooper. And it was based on literally a couple of decent performances for Manchester United, probably Manchester United's peak this season, for some reason.
Yeah, and if you weigh up the points that Ruud's picked up and Cooper picked up, it'd be interesting to know how many points they picked up each across this season, because I don't reckon there'd be a lot of difference in it. And I just think, he was probably the wrong appointment in the first place, but I think they would have been better off sticking with him. And I know what you said, the last few games, they've got some decent results. Obviously, Forest, they got the draw. They beat, who was it they beat the other day? They beat
Southampton.
Southampton. Well, yeah.
Southampton.
So, I know they've picked up some results recently, but, it's too little too late, isn't it? I think they've got... I think they'll struggle when they go back down, to be honest. I don't think we'll see them come back up.
I agree with that.
I don't think so.
I think that's going to be the same with Saints as well.
Do you also think that, because we haven't got to worry about Europe anymore. And I to be honest with you, I'm glad that's gone. The shackles are off, and Andy will say, go out and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Show us what you can do.
Yeah, off.
Usually when we play our best football, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been, sorry, but at times it's felt like a bit of a burden. Too much hype for my liking, but it came too early. But it was nice, obviously you can dream about it and everything, but yeah, like we said, it's through the season, up to a point where absolutely superb, and you couldn't see it ending, to be honest with you. But last game, let's go for it. Why not?
Well, most definitely. And fingers crossed, we can get the 3 points against Leicester City this weekend. Of course, it's a Sunday kickoff, all the games kicking off at the same time. So we shall see how many points we finish on. But, hopefully, fingers crossed, a win, top half. That would just be beautiful. But let's finish off.
You going? You guys going?
Oh, of course.
Oh, yes.
Always. Yes, as always. So, fingers crossed we can experience a final win of the season to cap off what has been some great memories this year. But let's finish off with Guess the Cherry. So, he was born in Sandown on the Isle of Wight in 1979. He handed his AFC Bournemouth debut by Melmation, played 407 times in a Cherry shirt, scoring 108 goals. Also played for Doncaster, Yeovil and Hampton Waterlooville. He scored 4 goals for Bournemouth against Bury at Gig Lane and has a famous EFL record. But who is he? Any guesses?
Go on, Ollie.
I'll be honest with you. This has been annoying me slightly since it was spoken about at the start. I wrote down a couple of things here, trying to figure it out on the way through, and I just couldn't. So,
Shall I have a go? I mean,
Go on.
I'm going to have a stab at this because it simply says, hang on, born Sandown, Isle of Wight. So, were his parents at that particular game against Wrexham?
Yes,
Thank you.
they were. Yes, they were. And of course, you can watch the full interview that we did with James Hayter on this channel as well, where we discussed that. And I'll tell you what, it's just a great story, isn't it?
And they missed it, didn't they? They had to get to the ferry or something?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
I'll
They
tell you
decided
what.
because he wasn't coming off the bench. It was like the 82nd, 83rd minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't
Crazy.
think
Absolutely crazy.
he gets on and scores the fastest hat trick. So against Wrexham. Yeah.
That's right. Have
There
you
we
seen
are.
it, Ollie?
I haven't. No.
Have a look on YouTube. Just Google, type in the search. James Hayter. It's got to be in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think and Willow's doing the co-commentary, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes. There is one with a clock as well.
I wait for the day that the replay occurs.
Sorry?
I wait for the day that the replay occurs between Bournemouth and Wrexham.
Wow.
Well, it probably will happen quite soon, to be honest, with Wrexham's
It's possible. It's definitely possible for a game between them for sure. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah. We will be playing Wrexham in the US as well as part of the TST event as well.
We did it last season, didn't we? Yeah. And
we
drew 1-1 with them, I believe.
Sorry?
We drew 1-1 with Wrexham in the pre-season.
That's right, yeah.
We did,
Yes,
we did.
We did.
However, if James Hayter was in that side, he would score that hat-trick again, no doubt. It's just a brilliant story. Everybody go watch that interview. It's actually in the top corner. No, that way. No, up there by Matt. There's a link that's just popped up. Yeah. I said I look like, what do you call it? Like I'm disco dancing, don't I? No, actually, I'd look stupid.
I thought you were squatting flies.
They'd throw me out if I started doing that in a disco. Can you imagine? They'd think, what's bloody wrong with him? Anyway, Malcolm, as always, a pleasure to have you on this show, and no doubt you will be back very, very soon, won't you?
Are you threatening me?
You want some? You want some?
I look forward to coming back again whenever. You just give me a shout.
Definitely, we will do. And Ollie, making your debut, enjoyed it, mate?
Yeah, loved it. Really appreciate it, chaps. Thanks for having me on. And same as Malcolm, feel free to reach out anytime. I'd be more than happy to get involved again.
Definitely. You're both part of the team now. And Matt, as always, we will be seeing each other at the football on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully there will be a lap of honour. No doubt there will be.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Fingers crossed for you boys. That'd be awesome to see.
Yeah. So I will try and get some footage of it as well as the players are walking around. It'll be sadly the last time we see Dean Howson in a Cherries shirt, but bloody hell, there has been some memories. Hopefully there's not going to be many other players that we're going to be missing next season, and we'll see them all back come the start of next season. But of course there's lots of rumours circulating, but do hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button below. It does help this channel to grow. Do go watch that James Hayter interview. Go check out the preview with Chris, and we'll see you in the next cherry picking.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Talksport. Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.